Today we are going to cover long distance healing. This is presented by Light Language University. We have 6 panelists, including Anna Noyce, the founder of Light Language University and an energy healer who covers many modalities. We've also got Joy Koff with us, who's the owner of Miracles of Joy and an energy healer as well. Kevin Forsman, who is a past life regressionist as well as a Reiki master, will be here. Rael Burhane, who is a light language practitioner and Reiki master, will be presenting on her first panel. We've got Kathy Reeder, who also practices many modalities. We also have Anne DeRule here, who is not only a sacred geometry expert and artist, she has led for over 25 years a company that provides energy healing under 3 different umbrellas. Today we'll discuss the effectiveness of long distance healing as well as each panelist's take and share some real life examples on some of their profound experiences. Let's talk about long distance healing and how does this work?
Well, I'm going to say that all of us are, I think, Reiki masters, or at least up to here. And I personally think Reiki is a wonderful way to learn to work with energy. I would recommend it to anyone starting out. That's what I first did. All right. And I've done a lot. I have a multitude of other modalities as well. But here's what I've really been into lately. I know it works. I love doing it, distance healing, and also, one-on-one healing. But distance healing has always been very, very effective for me. I thought, why? How does this really work? How can I talk to someone and work on someone who's on the West Coast, say, and have them have the same experience as someone who's sitting right in front of me? And it's quantum mechanics, quantum physics, which I'm not going to get into that too hard because that's a huge topic and it's wonderful. It's exciting. I love studying it. But I'm no expert because I don't think anyone is, except maybe a few, the ones that I study with. But bottom line, I'm going to start basic. You all know, you are all energy. And that's a hard concept. I was talking to my sister yesterday. She said, no, I'm an energy and I'm matter. I go, okay, that's the old school, that's old thinking. Okay, so I won't talk to her again about that. She's ready. Shut us down, It's hard sometimes when you want to help your family members, and they're like, it's not quite there. Okay, so we're all energy, right? And energy is malleable. It is, that's what we work with, all of us, when we are healing or whatever. We're all actually talking to spirit. I channel galactics, you name it. Whoever wants to come in, some I don't even know, from other universities. So that's exciting. And of course, occasionally ancestors, when they have something really important to say, sometimes they just want to come in and chat. At any rate. So, how does it work? Well, first of all, every thought that I have is energy. And every thought that I'm having, whether I voice it or not, is permeating each of you. You're receivers. We're all so connected that there's nothing that we don't do, and it's important to know that. You have to be conscious of your thoughts, conscious of your actions, particularly your thoughts, though. Things you think, oh, it's just in my head. No one else is going to know I'm thinking this. It will affect others. It will get out. So that's one of the things that actually I teach how to control and how to control. Be the creator. We are creating our consciousness, which is going to create reality. And that's a whole other thing. But it's all energy. And we are all connected in the quantum realm to each other. That was pretty all, I think, addressed that beautifully in the last panel. And that's important to know. Nobody's ever alone, first of all, if you want to talk about your guiding ones. Second of all, I'm as connected to you two as I am to you. And I have not met you, sir. But we're all connected. We're all connected. And that's how long distance healing works. You connect with that person. And it's like they are right in front of you. And they can feel what's going on. And it's a wonderful modality, and it's wonderful when they can't be with you. I like them. I like it when either are on Zoom. I never did Zoom before, COVID, but that works just as well. But the long distance will work just as well because of this connectivity that we all share. I'm trying to keep that concise. Does that make sense?
So I like that, and you mentioned Zoom. So each of you are practitioners. One question I'd love for y'all to talk about is just in the recent years where people have become more homebound, have you seen a surge in remote and distance healing? What have been your observations since 2020? Who'd like to go first? Okay. Yes.
So Zoom was very important when COVID hit for people. They wanted to connect and they wanted, sessions and healing sessions and things like that. 2022, not so much. They want it in person. They are tired of being isolated. They are tired of not really interacting with people at this point, and they want to really do it in person. But it's Zoom, you can see the person. You're seeing each other, you can hear each other. It's a wonderful tool to have used when we were isolated. And now, they're coming out of the woodwork. I mean, they're really coming out of the woodwork.
Kevin?
Yeah, when COVID happened, we had to shut down what we do. We do all of these healing modalities. We also include massage in that. Because it was close contact, we had to shut down. So our business went virtual. And since then, we did a lot of work using Zoom, telephone calls, whatever. And probably about a year and probably last November, probably a year before that, people were saying, I love this, but we really just want to see you in person. And we went through some stuff, and we had lost our location because when COVID happened, we were supposed to renew our rent. Just let it go because we didn't know what was happening. And we just spent that time studying, learning. It was great. It was like, why survive COVID when you can just thrive through COVID, right? So we came out the other side, and people were like, we just want to come see you again. So we got a new office, and everyone just started coming in. We had a lot of Reiki classes that were half and half virtual. I've always done things at a distance. I've never been trained to lay the hands on, so I've always done it this way before COVID. But she's absolutely right. So I think because we were maybe on our side of the world over in Dallas, one of the first to let people come in, we've just been crazy busy, and have a lot of people taking our classes just because we have the in-person thing. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So, I wanted to add, I had an interesting experience 3 years ago, right before COVID happened. Spirit came to me and they said, I'm thinking about Zoom. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do Zoom. And so the next year, Spirit comes and I'm like, they're going to Zoom. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready. The next year, of course, the same thing. And we hit, just before we hit COVID, I promised myself, I promised the spirits, we'll do Zoom and we'll do it at this point. We went into COVID and I had to do Zoom. Mm-hmm. I couldn't even say no anymore. And guess what? The university started growing so fast. So interesting.
I think I was in Anna's first Zoom for Light Language 101 and 102. So if you have any interest in those classes, you can do them in person or you can do them via Zoom, and it works the same. So our next question we have is there a limit to the distance that remote healing works? And does it lose effectiveness based on further distance? And I really want to get every single panelist's thoughts here, so I'm going to start at the Insight Anne.
Okay. Well, my answer in short would be no. It makes no difference. I've worked with people all around the country having just the same kind of effective results as if they were with me in person. I have longed for the opportunity to be able to work with people in Europe or Hong Kong or whatever, because I know it will be just as effective, because the work really transcends time and space.
And love that you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's, again, quantum physics. There is
Right, yeah.
it's a time and space.
Yeah.
We need to forget that. Really, I got a little too good at that. I never know what day it is. Trevor makes it very simple. But it is. I've actually found that, and I'm back to having people come in. I will be next month for my weekly, actually, meetings. Sorry, meetup. And I'm going to make them hybrid so that people have an option, which I think Zoom is nice. I mean, we've gone through Zoom and everybody got kind of zoomed out. On the other hand, you work late, and you can't get to it's my home. You can't get over there, so you log on, and so you can you can talk to people in other states, other countries. I mean, it's opened up that for me. But I long to have people present too. I can feel the energy on Zoom, but it's a little. This is just for discussion's sake, when we're having meetings. It's not as you feel it so very vividly when they're sitting next to you or they're in your room. So it's nice. The hybrid is really, really good.
No. My experience is, and for some reason, I have like 5 clients in Paris, France. I don't know why. So I guess I have a connection there on some level. So it doesn't change anything. Whether you're doing healings, whether you're doing readings, it doesn't change anything. You're connected to their energy at that particular time, and they're sending that energy. And I feel their energy. In fact, I think what's really interesting, I kind of like it more. And the reason why is it shocks me on how much I pick up by being that distance. I feel like I pick up more information about that person from a distance or from the phone than I would when they're in front of me. And it just blows my mind when it happens.
Right. You want to explain how you're receiving that information?
Well, I just receive it. How I receive it is I feel like I have a heart-to-heart connection with the person that I'm working with. So I feel like I'm connected with them on a spiritual level. And my heart is connected to their heart at that particular time, and the energy is coming. It just feels like it flows from the two of us.
I'm going to be difficult on this one. So I'm going to go a little different angle. I'm going to say no. Of course we have ultimate. But I'm also going to say yes, it can be hard. Because I have worked with clients from all over the world. And when I'm connecting, sometimes my energy is going to find them. And there's a block here. And I'm like... So we're trying to figure out how I get in there. And so sometimes I'm like, okay, just relax and breathe in golden white light. Relax. So that's our answer.
Well, I can answer it real quickly 3 ways. My first Reiki master was my wife, Lisa, which was all in person, which was great. And Reiki was not the first energy healing thing I ever learned, but I wanted to learn what Reiki was. So I had that experience. And then I wanted to see if things could be done through distance. So I went to a Udemy site and found a woman in Australia who was a Reiki master, so I took her class. And one of the questions my United States Reiki master was, how are you going to get an attunement? And I was like, I don't know. So, she has thousands of people that take these classes. So she does an attunement, with people all over the world. So she said, I'm going to do it this time. You just sit there, relax like you tell people. So I did. And it was on a Saturday morning, like 7 or 8 a.m. So I just got up, and I'm usually still sleeping at that time, and just sat there, and all of a sudden I felt the vibration, and I was attuned from Australia, and I knew it worked. So I've had it actually done on me in a healing sense from across the world. The second point is we had a client who's here in Dallas, and she's originally from India. So she came and worked with us and had a really great experience. She's like, I would like to do this for my family, due distance. I was like, sure. So I was able to work with her mom and her brother in India and do several sessions with them. And it was so cool because we would do it on like Friday evening, and the sun would be going down here at about 5 or 6 while the sun was coming up for them. So they were preparing, and I kind of woke them up. So it's fascinating. The third thing is that we've learned to use this in many ways. Before people come in, if they're getting a chakra balancing, I just check their chakras before they arrive. Very simple, easy to do, so that when they come in, I can spend the whole session with them. So that's how it's going to change me. And that's my response. No. Yes and yes, no, no.
Yes, no. Excellent response. Rahel?
And for me, it's limitless. There's no limits. It's a yes, it's to be done. Like Kevin said, I was also attuned through via Zoom and through Anna, and simultaneously with different other students. We were all attuned at the same time. So is it not only limited to one person? You can multi-heal people in that level. And so that's my other experience. And as a personal experience, when she did that, I did feel the vibration. And it was, and she also did another healing, so I had the experience doing it to me, and then I also had the experience of doing it to someone else. And my third point would be also, you can not only can you find heal the person that's willing to do a long distance healing, you can connect through that person to someone else through their time and pass that healing to that person that is not understanding or asked for the information. Besides asking their higher self, of course, right? You can't do anything to someone else without asking the higher self. But some people could be in a state of not there yet to receive that healing, but they might need a little nudge, a little help to accept to heal. But a friend of theirs or a family member wants to heal. So you can connect through that person that called you, and through their thoughts connect to that person's energy, so that it can pass through. So it's basically limitless.
I love that. So before we ask the panel our next question, coming off limitless, how many of you, by a raise of hand in the audience, have had a distance healing of any modality? Have experienced or given? So our next question is, there are many skeptics. Can you each share an experience you've had that shows how powerful long distance healing can be and how you knew it worked? So just to kind of change it up, we're going to start with Joy this time, but everyone else gets a few minutes to think about a powerful experience.
So I would probably think the most powerful experience I had is I was a skeptic.
You stole Anna's answer.
It had to have been 12 or 13 years ago. I had a guy from Buffalo, New York, who wanted galactic healing, and it's one of my modalities. It's what I teach, and it's what I do. And he wanted galactic healing, and he's in Buffalo, New York, and I'm in, Dallas, Texas, or Louisville, Texas. And he asked, would I do it, over the phone? And I'm like, sure, I can do that. But I never did one at that point. I never did a distance healing like that before. So I had to really get into my own head, and wrap my own brain around how I was going to do this and how I visualized it. I literally visualized his higher self and my higher self, in the same space, sending the symbols and where they're supposed to go at that particular time. And every time I would send a symbol, because I can feel that. I can feel that. And it's like I did the healing for like 30 minutes over the phone, and it was my eye-opening experience that there was nothing between time and space. And I went, wow, this is really cool. There's like nothing that stops us.
Now that you've stolen Anna's answer.
Anna, that's why we're sitting together. No, about a month ago, so I'm always a practitioner, but about a month ago I wake up and the left eye's swollen. And I'm like, I go to my eye doctor and she's like, oh, yeah, you've got a sty. What's a sty? It's a pimple in your eye. Oh, lovely. It's very very painful. Can you do something? Yes, we can give you antibiotics. And with antibiotics, it will take 10 days. And if you don't do antibiotics, because we know you, Anna, you'll just not do anything, and it will take 3 weeks to get better. So I called my dear friend, and I said, look, I got a sty. Can you do it? She did energy work over the phone. And in 3 days, it was gone. Completely gone. So, it's a good reminder. You know, this works.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Had a client call me up one day, it was probably maybe a Thursday or Friday, about 5:30, and she's very upset, and it was in regards to her pet, her dog, and I work with animals. It's easier for me to work with them not in person, distance that they're comfortable. So she had taken her dog to the vet, thought it was going to die. They'd run all kinds of tests on it. It stopped eating, had some form of leukemia maybe. And she was very upset. Family was very upset. And she was like, I went to your website and saw you work with pets. Is there anything that you can do? And I was like, sure. She's like, can you do it now? And I had nothing going on. I was at home. So I was like, yeah, okay. So when I do distance healing, if I'm not using Zoom, because, you know, pets usually don't know how to use Zoom. Some do, I guess. But I'm usually not necessarily on the phone or on Zoom with them. And that allows me to do some things just real quickly. So I just went into my space and just started, and I could see the dog in the vet. And it was sick, but it was also very sad. And these are some of the things you pick up on. It kind of felt like it had been abandoned. And it was like, why are you bringing me here with all these sick dogs? You know, why are you leaving me here? You're not visiting. Why do I have to stay here? And when I was approaching it, it kind of was backing away from me. So I'd never done this before. I haven't done it since, but I have a little dog. We have 2 now, but we have a little Chiweenie. And when we worked out of our home, the dog was always with us, so it's kind of like a Reiki dog. It was like, well, maybe, his name is Bowie, maybe he'd be more comfortable getting this from Bowie. So I just kept doing my thing, and I saw Bowie come in to that back area and just greet the dog, and the dog walked out of its little kennel. You know, they sniffed and everything, and it just sat there. And I just felt like I sent whatever it is we do through his eyes for the pet, and he really received it in his heart and everything. So about 30 minutes. So, and towards the end of it, I just really cried. It was very emotional. It's just that dog needed to really release some feelings. And there's other stuff behind that. But anyway, so finished, you know, grounded. And so I called. I couldn't get hold of her, and she wanted me to call her right afterwards. So about an hour went by. So I did not know that they were on their way to go see the vet. And they got there probably about 15 or 20 minutes after I finished the session. And they walked in, and they're like, okay, so they went and got the dog. And the dog hadn't eaten in like a long time. And the vet walked in, and the dog was eating food. They ran a couple of quick tests, and it was reproducing, I don't know, blood cells or white blood cells again. It had perked up, and when they came and visited, it was just happy. And the vet was like, you know, I don't know what happened, but I think whatever we've been doing is working. So if you want to take him home, you can. So about 30 minutes after they called, they're like, what did you do? And I'm like, well, you know, I don't know, but this is what I think I did. So, you know, that's just, for me, when I do a distance and I'm working with a person, I feel like, kind of what you were alluding to, I can go right into their body. There's not this physicalness here. And I can kind of see what's going on in a heart or something. And with that little puppy dog, it was just so sad. So it was more comfortable working with a dog. And Bowie's just asleep, you know, he doesn't know. Well, maybe he does know. But that was a really kind of crazy thing because I was not prepared for it, didn't know it was going to happen. And it worked, and it kind of documented. And so she became one of our clients. And the dog had been reacting to a lot of stress that was going on in the family. And so it's hard to just work with one person or a dog in the family. We find that eventually we need to bring the whole family in, either by distance or locally. So that was really surprising to me. And I was like, well, okay, God. Next.
Love that. Freya?
For me, my first experience I can speak about is my sister's baby. She was about 4 or 5 months, and in her crib, she would cry a lot at night. It was just in this particular space, in that crib. And we thought it was because of kids don't want to be alone, right? She wants her mom. So she moved the crib, but since it was against the wall, she moved the bed against the wall. Now the baby's still sleeping in the same spot, and she's still crying in the same spot. So I said, okay, let me just connect and see what's going on. So through connecting with her, and I saw the pain where it's in her stomach, she's having the stomach pains, and this is what she's crying, but she can't speak of it. But and then it went further to reconnect so quickly, I connected to the pain, and the pain spoke. So I was like, whoa, now I'm going off. I'm crazy now. And it can't just be the first experience of that. And then with that pain, I said, so, okay, where are you coming from? And then I saw complete grid lines on the ground, which is toxic detrimental lines. And then there's a curly line just crossing right on her stomach area. That was causing me pain. So how do you remove this? And I said, since I'm going off crazy, so let's just talk to you too. Can you please move? So just move these lines, and this is just let her give her this space. Can you please go around this bedroom? And sure enough, the energy moved. So that was my first shock ever. That not only can you heal through people, you can also ask these energies that are in the grid line not to stop and cut them, but please go around and move around. It sure just went up, moved around. She slept ever since that day, and that's where it's like, what's the limit now? And like you said, what's next? Yeah, so that was...
There's nothing better than a sleeping baby. And
Yes,
and
Well, I've been doing long-distance healing work now for over 25 years. So it's kind of, at this point, hard for one or two things just to jump out at me, because I'm always amazed at how remarkable the results are. So, and I'm speaking there of my quantum solutions work, typical healing kind of session, which is my own combination of more than 17 different modalities that I've traveled around the country taking, as well as incorporating some quantum physics and things from other healers and a lot of divine guidance. So I'll give you an example out of the environmental remediation, of which not so many people will be familiar with, but it touches on exactly what you were talking about, Rahel. With the environmental remediation, my work identifies negative energies coming from the earth, from all electrical, from stagnant energies, from the negative energies we all give off all the time, and they accumulate in certain areas. So I had a fellow call me to do a regular healing session. He had been recommended by someone, and this guy had never been around energy, didn't know anything about it. I don't know why I'm calling you, but he told me to call you. And he said, I've got some relationship issues with my significant other. Okay, well, come on. Well, when he arrived, he was there with his significant other, so I didn't say a word. And what is it you want to work on tonight? Well, low energy and motivation. So he's a webmaster and worked out of his home. And where I was guided to go for what I thought was going to be a regular healing session is that I was guided to detect the negative energies in his home where he was working. And he was working in his den, and I got there were lines of negative earth energy there, his own stagnant energy, all the electrical, all the computer, cell phone jazz and whatnot. And their bedroom needed to tune into it, as well as their kitchen. So we drew, never been to their place, never met them before, but we drew out on a piece of paper kind of what the shape of the room and where the main pieces of furniture were and whatnot. And so as I was doing the work and transforming that energy, she kind of, oh my gosh, I'm feeling something going on up here, like it was releasing or something. And he said, oh, well, come to think of it, I am too. So anyway, we got complete, and they were feeling good, and they went on their way, and that was a Wednesday night. I called him on Friday afternoon to see how things were going, if they could tell any difference. And he says, oh man, I've gotten more work done in the last day and a half than I got done in the last 3 weeks. So I found that with people even in their offices, how much more productive and clearer they're able to be just from clearing those kinds of energies. And of course, many of you heard about how bad our computers and cell phones can be for us. Well, we can turn that around in a minute, not just blocking it, but we transform it so it's actually life-enhancing, gives you positive energy. So, kind of fun.
Thank you, Anne. Kathy.
I've been doing it for so long. I'm trying to think what would be a little different and interesting. I want to talk about clearing, which is still healing. But on occasion, I get calls to clear houses, and I've had some amazing with them. And you have to work with the whole family when you're clearing a house because somebody's bringing in someone's focal point. If there's something drawing it in, and they're attracted to someone. And I guess, okay, I'm trying to think of these distance. Okay, I want to take the one in Minnesota. These people who I didn't really know, and I didn't talk to them at all, hardly at all. I just knew that my sister told me they had this house, and they had not, it's a lovely house, but they had not gotten an offer on it. And would I go in, from here and check it out? So before any session, I consult their higher self. I always, my higher self talks to their higher self, and we get it all. And I get a lot of information also from my Hawaiian guides or my Vaiku. And I asked them, I said, what's going on in Minnesota? What's up with this house? At any rate, all the information I got was fascinating. Was that there had been a massacre of Indians right there where the house was. And it had, for years, decades, been just sitting there with all this negative energy. And no way anybody liked walking in that house. And we were able, I have a process for clearing houses, whether it's physically, I'm actually there. I always say protection, because I don't want to be surprised by any entities. And I run into some nasty ones that needed help to move on. And in this case, it wasn't so much that, it was the sorrow and it was so fast. They died so quickly, and it was just horrible. And so I had to work with them individually, the beings, the Indians, and help them understand that they can go ahead and move on. Yes, they're living in this shock for so long, and they needed to move on. And then I walk through the house to make sure it's all clear, and it was. And I have a bunch of those stories. A lot of times it's Indians, Native Americans. A lot of times the ones that are staying are doing so because they were given the honor and the job to protect the land. And when they passed, no one told them their job was over. So they stayed to protect the land. So you have to explain it to them. That's fascinating. It's fascinating. That's the same as healing. Whether you're healing a house or a person or a dog, clearing energy. You're getting I love the way he said, you're getting the negative energy out, and you can't destroy energy. Everyone understands that. You have to transform it. So that's what you do. So you end up with a lighter, more wonderfully, the energy is just so much better. And you're absolutely right. People use offices in their homes. It can be up, knee high or waist high. I can see it. Just negative energy because they've been sitting there stewing and all stressed out, and it just anyway, that has to be cleared out. So you can do anything at a distance. If you understand energy and you understand how it all works, and again, I'm going back to quantum physics. That's what it is. We're all connected, and that energy is here. And that's all we are. That's all this table is. That's all anything is. And that's what we create with. It's just so important to understand that. So I hope that's good. I was thinking of all the people, but the houses were really kind of more interesting.
I love that because we tend to focus on healing of the person, but there's so much more that can be done with this sensibility. And
Healing the land.
I love that. So back to healing the person. We talked about with your clients, you're starting to see a little bit of Zoom fatigue and demand for in-person rising. So here's the next question. What are some of the benefits to long distance healing versus in-person sessions. And Anne, would you love to go first?
Well, the fun thing to me is, at least the way I do my work, it may not work for these other people, I don't know. But if it's by distance, I tell people they can be working, sleeping, or playing while I do the work if they like. They can be on the phone. This is relative to that last question we were going to address, maybe. They can be on the phone and we can do a phone session, or they can free up their time and say, I've got a gal that's called me for a long time from Arkansas. Well, I want to work on so-and-so and so-and-so. Just do it sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks and let me know what went on. You know, so she can be doing anything and not even have to take her time. She knows it works because we work together, and she knows she's gotten the results. So that's kind of fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the other thing is, too, at a distance, that other person can proxy. I did sessions for another gal where she was out of state, but her daughter was about 24 years old in a new job in Manhattan, New York City. And one or both of them were concerned with her volume of drinking. And so she proxied several sessions that I did for that daughter. And sure enough, after about that third session, that daughter changed her set of friends to get away from all the drinking.
Interesting.
So, kind of fun.
Thank you, Anne. I may hop over to Anna and then just snake around if that works for y'all.
Okay, so what was the question again? I'm kind of like,
I love that. That's how my mind works.
Ground.
So, what are some of the benefits to long distance healing versus in person?
What are some of the benefits? There really isn't. It's all the same. I mean, person, it's connection. So I guess it's preference, really. That's what I would say.
Do you think that there's a preference on the healer side and the healee? Wait, I don't know if that's the right word. But do you think there's preferences on both sides?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it just depends.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a client, we have a client, and her name is Chrissy. She's in Rowena, Texas, and now actually she lives in Sherman. A little older and just hates driving around Rowena, much less going to Dallas. Won't do it. So she found us online a few years ago, and she was like, well, she called to ask a bunch of questions. She was like, well, I can't come down to Dallas. I'm afraid to drive. I won't do it. I'm like, why come to Dallas when you can just sit there and let's do the session? So she did, and we have, and her review is on our Google page about how I've worked with her and all this stuff. She did come down about a couple of years ago to our old office and actually met in person. Her daughter drove her down. She has some back issues and just getting older, so we just work with her from time to time, and pretty much everything I've ever done with her has been through distance. So I found one of the advantages is that you're at home. You don't have to drive. It's like some people will go get a massage, you get relaxed, and you got to get in the car and drive back, and by the time you get home, it's like, the massage, where did it go? So some people are just more comfortable in their environment, and if it's a relaxing environment, there's not a lot of sound, and they can just get 30 or 40 minutes to do that. They never do have to come to the office. Some people want to come to the office and see you, or they want to talk, and I can give them a little bit more time sometimes in person versus virtually, but I think that's one of the advantages. So, best of both worlds, whatever best works for you, come see us or hang out in Rowena, no problem.
Preference.
Yeah.
Rael?
I would say preference too. For a practitioner, it makes no difference. And for you receiving the healing, it makes no difference. And it's just preference, and it's that human connection they're looking for. But for me, I am online. It's a long distance. It's remote healing. It's equal. And when you think about it, it's also better priced for the clients as well, because it's less. And you reach more people as well when it's remotely.
I like that.
So,
I would say the same thing. It really depends on the client.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I I would just say, what's the difference if a client doesn't believe they can get a healing distance? Being in person is probably important. And once they feel you, or they have a feel for you as a practitioner, then they can be almost anywhere in the world, and all of a sudden something happens and they'll pick up the phone. Because it's, you kind of want to get to know your practitioner. You want to get to know them on a personal level.
Yeah.
I just want to say something about remotely. It can also be like, if it's on Zoom, it's like you're having that connection. You're seeing each other. Versus remote means it's not only the Zoom, it could be on a phone.
Right.
Yes.
But the first connection maybe is nice to see your practitioner, like you said, and have that connection, and then after that, you're just on a speed dial.
I will say real quickly, I've had some clients that believe that the energy is coming through the Zoom or coming through the phone. Put your hands on the screen. Right? And it's like, I don't think it does. There's a gentleman here, Paul Hubbard, who does crystal bowls, and if it's a distance thing, he calls them and then hang up the phone. They're not necessarily hearing the bowls. The frequency of the bowls is traveling there. It's not about hearing it. So it's not coming through, although that would be kind of cool, but I don't think it works that way. So some people, because of that, it's like, well, I don't have Zoom, so I'm not going to get it.
Right.
So come see me.
I think that's important that you brought that up, and I'm going to let Kathy make some comments on it as well, because that's really something that needs to be debunked. Like, you don't have to have a computer screen. I love that you brought that up. But Kathy, do you have some comments on that?
Well, actually, kind of taken off from Joy a little bit, but I'll try to. I don't go back to Zoom. I use Zoom all the time, and I do sessions with Zoom, but I don't think any of my people thought.
No, just my people.
I explain to people how it works before we get going. But get back to you. When people are with you, so it can be kind of a distraction sometimes. They want to talk, or there's just other stuff. And I don't know what method you use for seeing inside. I use Trinity energy regression, and I don't do it until I'm done with the session. Then I can see what's left and see the nasty dark spots. And I can do that better long distance because I'm not distracted by their body sitting there and all that. It's just so much clearer when I picture them. Anything that's wrong, I don't have to feel the heat like if I was just working on it. It's right there, it's right there, it's right there. And it's much easier. So I do like distance healing, but I also like the connection you make. Not always great connection verbally, because the language can be a real challenge. But when you can connect with them and explain some things to them, it makes it easier for them to accept and to take it in, to accept your healing here.
So there's often tools, or we use many tools, depending on your modality. I would love for you to talk about your thoughts on what tools can be used to make long distance healing easier. Does anyone want to take that first?
I'll take it. Okay. Instead of using physical tools, I use virtual tools. And so we create a hologram of the human being. And with that, and everybody daydreams. Who in here does not daydream? Everybody daydreams. So if you daydream and you can have your imagination, you can create a hologram of a human being, and you can see inside their body. And so those are the tools that we work with, and we teach our students how to do the psychic surgeries, how to work with those holograms. It's pretty effective.
I'd say one of the tools that I use, like I mentioned, we can kind of check people's chakras, we can pull a card, we can kind of get a sense not of their chakras, as well as maybe for us what the session is for, how can we best help the person. So if I was doing a chakra balancing thing, that's what they wanted online, I use a pendulum. They're not here with me, I'm not moving my hand around them. I could. I used to set up a massage table and imagine them there, and that just kind of helps for your focus. But I've just come to use a pendulum to just kind of measure, depending on the swing of what's happening. So then again, I can efficiently get on, spend the time, not go over, continue to go over. but I can check their chakras and kind of see what's going on before it happens. And some people can just tune right in. I don't think you necessarily need the tools, but it has just helped me learn. And I like to do that for people in person. But when I do Zoom calls and do it, I have a camera on me, and I usually use my phone. If they want to draw cards, they can have it on the phone so they can see that. They can see the pendulum doing. So that's really the only tool I can think of that I use.
I love that. You go into my healing room, massage table, teddy bear. That's how I do it. But I'm new. So who'd like to go next on that? Anne?
Well, I will say this, that I have at my disposal in the work that I do, and probably all of y'all know we are all energy, everything is energy. So color, sound, movement, you name it, aroma, therapy, all of those are different frequencies, and those can affect our bodies in different ways. So I have over 100 different kinds of modalities to create more coherence, like sound, tuning forks, or color, a color filter torch where you can, in a little flashlight, replace it in different colors in the flashlight and put it on different points in the body as you're guided to, or these little funny glasses that you can insert different color strips into it for you to take in color. And anyway, and toning, you name it, over 100 different kinds. But over 10 years ago, I was guided to start developing some contemporary art. I've been a would-be artist all my life, so here later in life I've finally given that a chance. And my work is inspired by my studies in sacred geometry, and in fact the energetics of sacred geometry. So that's incorporated into my art such that each piece emanates a different energy frequency. And I'm not particularly an energy feeler, I'm more audio and visual, but people who've stood in front of some of my pieces of art who are more kinesthetic and feel the energies, they can stand in front of one and tell me what they're feeling, and I'm going, oh my gosh, that's wonderful, and it'll be exactly the energy that painting is supposed to be emanating. So at this point, and those paintings are very divinely guided, and so I'm sure it's the energy from there coming through that art and emanating outward. But what I get from that art is that once I started using it as a modality to shift all the energy frequencies, the others just went away because this is so much faster. Before I would maybe have to use a combination of several of those to switch the energies, but with the art, have the person stand in front of it and breathe the energy in, as by intention, take that energy into their body 3 times, and that will do a 180 on all the sessions, the energies we've turned up in the session. So if it's by distance, if they've worked with me before, they may have already seen the art, and they can imagine it and take it in. And sometimes it's one on my business card, maybe they'll have that and breathe that in. But if not, if they don't know what it is or whatnot, I can proxy for them in that long distance session and take that in for them, and that will work for them to switch the energies in the session.
Thank you.
May I say just a word about Anne? I met her when she was, her art is spectacular. And I stood in front of her painting, and it's so strong. And your cards, I can't believe you mentioned that. But, I did back when I had, you gave me a couple of cards, and I taped them to one of the shelves in my fridge, and I put water that I used in my meetings. I would set them on top of I actually put them underneath the things so they wouldn't get wet. I set them on that, and it would purify the water. It would make it, no, it wasn't purify. It would imbue it with gratitude and love and things like that. And I still have them. They're still in my fridge.
Well, thank you. I would invite everyone out there on the table to pick up one of my cards. On the back side of it, it's lime green and purple primarily. But that is the energy of your I Am Presence. And if you're familiar with Dr. Emoto's work from Japan, I prove different frequencies are carried in water. If you will set your water, either a glass or your bottle or a pitcher, on that for at least 1 minute. Now, before you do that, taste or try, feel your water or whatever you're putting on there. Taste it, feel it, put it on there for 1 minute, and then do it again and see if you don't notice a difference. But since we're 85% plus or minus water, that energy of your I Am Presence, that's going to help raise your frequency. So I drink all my water charged on that card. I put a picture on it, so 24/7, and I just refill my bottles I carry around with me.
Thank
With
you.
that water.
I love that.
I thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's what I would use that water for my meeting tomorrow night, and it's just, people can feel it.
And I think it's a good plug as well. If you're drawn to any of our panelists, we have information on everyone out at the table outside as well as on our website. So feel free to pick up the cards, look at the I Am Energy, and get the contact information for our panelists. All right.
I have something to say on that one. For as a light language practitioner, I use visual tools, like as I learned through the school, of course. But I think light language is the connection of everything, like whether it has a life or non-living items. So communicating with that means you can also communicate with any body. So I mean, I can connect with a pendulum and pendulum dials in my mind. So any type of tools, I guess I do use them, but visually.
Yeah.
So connected with the light language.
Perfect.
I do have something to say, and this is kind of a shame on me. So, I had a couple of friends who were doing some practitioners, and we were looking for a little girl that was lost. Actually, she was murdered, and we were looking for her body. So two of my medium friends, they were in the front seat, and they got their pendulums, and we were driving, and I got bored in the back seat. So they pulled out their pendulums, and they were trying to pendulum, and I started swinging, and I was like, whoa, and it stops, and they're like, whoa, that's weird. And I start swinging them again and doing it. And they were like, well, something's wrong with this. It's not working. And they heard me giggling and they were like, Anna, stop it. Anna, stop it. It was just fun.
And that's a good point. I think learning Reiki to begin with and working with pendulums is a great way to get started with it. Whatever
Yes.
you want to do. I'm glad you appreciate it.
Before we go into Q&A, I think this next one, and feel free to take time to think about it, we would like you to share your most profound experience using a long-distance modality. And as you think about it, be prepared to share what modality it was and the impact on you and the person receiving, the person, place, thing receiving the healing. And I'll give y'all a few seconds so that I don't.
I'll go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Psychic surgery, or we call it intuitive surgery, to be politically correct. But I had a case, a client a couple years ago, a referral from a son. The mom called me, and she was having her, I think it was her lower disc, some back trouble. So they signed up for me, created the hologram, started working on building up her start nerves. You can change, because just like what I was talking about, you can replace the energy in it. So I started building up her back muscles and working on the hologram. I got a call, and she thanked me, we finished it. Now I didn't hear anything from her, but I got a call a couple months later from the son. And the son calls me up and says, "What the heck did you do to my mother?" And I'm like, uh-oh. What did I do? She said she was supposed to have back surgery the next day and didn't go. And now she's walking around like nothing was wrong. I want to sign up with you. I was like, oh, thank goodness. So, yeah, those are...
Thank you. Let's go with Joy. Okay. I'm trying to make sure I can capture everyone and not miss a panelist.
So I would have to say, and first of all, I do not take credit for any healing. You know, Spirit does it through me at that particular moment. It is not me. I would have to say the most profound, because I had 5 minutes and I got a call at the store and they were getting ready to take a 5-year-old off life support. They didn't have any brain activity that was going to start in the next 5 minutes. And why I say I don't take credit, will never take credit for that, because it was only me in the store and all my healers were gone. And I just turned around and just started calling in the archangels and just calling in who I knew as a higher power at that moment. And I say, if this child is meant to live, please let the brain activity be there. If this child is meant to live here, please. And it was like 10 minutes later, the mother called and keeping him on life support because he had brain activity. But that's not something, I call those the miracles that happen in the work that we do.
I would say that's profound. What do y'all think?
Yeah.
Kathy.
Not me.
I have to say, and I mentioned this too often, people tend to think, oh, I should cure her. But I had a client, and I've been working with her for a while about other things. But she had wanted to, it was interesting, this is how things work. She had had an abortion when she was in her teens, and she had a lot of guilt. She was holding a lot of guilt about that. And then she wanted to have another child. And it turned out she had ovarian cancer, or she had cervical cancer. And you know, we all know that's because of the guilt she was holding. That's another story. Now this one I also was taking the Hawaiian training, which teaches you how to release these things. So she was educated and working as well as me. She gave me a call one night and she said, Kathy, I'm going into surgery tomorrow, and can you help me? So, you know, I looked and I sent her energy, and I honestly didn't see any cancer. I thought, well, am I missing it? Come on, help me. Because the doctors had, you know, sonograms and everything else of the tumors. And so I just, her higher, and I wasn't talking to her. Her higher self and my mind collaborated in my Vaiku, and her, I like to work with their guiding ones as well as my guiding ones. There's a lot of energy that surrounds us all that we have access to. And I pulled it all in because I felt like we might be able to do this. And so it was literally just, it didn't take all that long. And I told, her name was Paige, I told Paige, I didn't tell her I didn't see anything. I didn't believe it. I mean, that was too big. So I said, they're giving me very positive information. I think it's going to work. I think this is going to work out better than you think. And better than you expect. At any rate, she called me the next day and said, Kathy, they did one last sonogram to see if the tumors were the same size where they were, and they weren't any. They were gone. And that, oh God, he's been talking to, that was my biggest thing.
And
I finally had something pop out at me. And this has been quite some time back, but I had a fellow who had worked with me individually and in some group sessions. He called one day, and he was pretty freaked out because his sister was in the hospital in Richardson. And she was in there for some really bad, chronic, life-threatening kinds of things, but they had just discovered that she had that bacteria or whatever it is that just starts eating her body up. You know, and like, that was going to be curtains on her life, you know. So it's like, can you do something for me right now? So I did a session for her, which kind of went a little more into some of the sacred geometry, energetics of that. And anyway, after that, she was fine. You know, it stopped it all. But you asked if we use any special tools. That's about all I can say about that, because my quantum solutions process covers a lot of ground that I go through for everyone, and per the guidance, I pull up whatever is needed out of that. Quite often, it's a matter of switching off negative aspects of parallel lives that we're having bleed through, and it's causing symptoms for us here, or switching on to positive aspects of parallel lives so we can borrow some of those healthy aspects from other realities. We switch on for more negative, switch on for more positive feelings and qualities, so we're resonating with those more. Back to law of attraction, what you resonate with is what you create and attract more of. We switch off your resonance with a lot of negatives. We can go in and do a lot of adjustments, including, like, I call it virtual acupuncture. We can go in and adjust particular meridian points and chakra balancing, all kinds of chemicals and chemistry in your body. Get into soul retrieval, get into a jillion other things. But it's generally following through that whole process. So I don't typically call out just one tool, because in that process now, the modality that I have that switches and reverses all those resonances to the way that you want it, that tunes you into what you want in your life, is the sacred geometry transformational art that I create.
Thank you.
And you haven't seen the latest. I've been doing it for 6 years.
Rahel, can you talk to us about a profound experience?
Yes. Okay. We've done this, as you've seen the results, right? And you hear from people. But I'm gonna switch it up a little bit and tell you from what happened to me as far as. And sometimes you want the confirmation from your clients, you see it, the results, right? But when I first started and I asked, I like to go to coffee shops. I love coffee, so I go to Starbucks near my home. So when I said, if there is someone that I can heal that wants my help, let them show up. And without, this is as far as long distance healing, right? Your own healing. Let them be. Let them come and see. And I have one corner. This is my neighborhood Starbucks, so I have a spot that I like. And my first time, this homeless guy with lots of bags walked in, sits next to me, and it's empty, half empty. The spot, there's many spots. And he sits there, I'm like, I did not pay attention to what I asked when I walked in. And it came on to me, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe he needs more. So I did my healing, I gave him lights and all that, and he got knocked out. He went, slept. Oh my God, did I kill him? I was making all kinds of noises to wake him out of the chair and stuff, and I'm like, let me something. And I would hear him moving and stuff. Okay, thank God. And then this happened a couple of later, and then I walked out. A couple of days later, this is where I like to read anyway, so I would come back. I said, oh, I hope he felt better. God, if I help this man, show me a sign. Another homeless man walks in with lots of, you would think they have lots of luggages, the trolley and all of that. I'm like, this is right next to me, like me and Trevor right now. I said, okay, hopefully I didn't kill that one, so let me have this one. So I said, okay, I'm going to do the same exact thing. I did the same exact thing, and this man stayed for a while and left. The third time, this is in the week, I said the same thing. Another man walked in, and with lots of skin burns and lots of things. And I did not notice all this, but the guy that was working at Starbucks, he came to me and said, I'm so sorry, you're having, these people are coming and say, I'm sorry if it smells, or I'm sorry you're being, disturbed or anything. Would you like me to reserve the 3 spots here so no one sits here? He thought I was like, what's going on? I'm so sorry about it. He's apologizing. I said, no, don't block nobody. I'm fine. They're not even bothering me. They don't even talk to me. And after a while, I'm like, okay, maybe. That was something, a confirmation I kept getting that it is working. Wherever you are, it's you can spread it out in the room.
Spreading the light.
Spread the light. Yes, that was my confirmation for me.
Thank you.
Can I add something? I'm going to talk a little bit. This is something that I've experienced in my work. Really that everybody at the table has. When we work with other people and help them and heal them, or help heal them and bring in the energy that runs, we don't use our own energy. It runs through us. I get healed. When I work on someone else, I'm healed. I can work 4 hours on someone and I go, aren't you tired? No, I go, fabulous, And you were talking, when I used to take pictures of people when they come in, into my house and when we're doing the session in person. They'd be crying, or they'd look really sad, or they'd look old, or I don't know, just tired. And by the time we finished, they looked like they had spa. I mean, the difference was, you could see it, visual. It was amazing, just amazing. And of course, I don't know if I looked any better, but I felt better. I wrote it to myself. But healing is an amazing thing, and we get a lot from it.
Kevin, what is your profound story?
Well, yeah, I'll put a little bit of different spin on this. So I had a Reiki class one time, and a gentleman came to our class who's from Galveston, did it in person, left, went home. And he had been to our website and saw that I did this other modality. And I won't say the name of it, it begins with an R, ends in an H maybe. Anyway, there are two things you do with it, and one is very kind of, you don't really do anything. It's kind of, you just kind of meditate and just do it, let the energy flow wherever it goes. The other one is a very specific thing where you run your hands in a certain way around the chakras and the lines, and you're always supposed to do it in person. That's the way it's taught. It can only be done in person. That's it. So, this gentleman from Galveston called me up because, Reiki is cool, but I'd like to try some of your other modalities. I'm like, okay, great. He goes, well, I'd like to try this thing, the da-da-da-da-da connection. And I said, oh, well, yeah, that can only be done in person. It's like, I'm in Galveston. And I was like, well, next time you're in town. And he's like, why does it have to be done in person? I don't understand. You talked to us about distance and everything. Why? And I was like, I don't know. It's just the way it was taught. That's the rules. And he said, well, it must not be very powerful if you can't do it at distance. And I was like, yeah, and pleasantries, and hung up the phone. And I just sat there, and something just stuck with me. It just didn't feel right. And so I called him back. And he's like, man, he's like, you don't even have to charge me. It's just, I just want to do this and everything, or I'll pay you, whatever you want to do, but I just want to try it. So I was like, let's do it. So we set a date and time, and I did it like I would do a session where I called him up, made sure he was relaxed, chilled out, got off the phone, and then I did my thing, and I did it virtually. So 30 minutes, didn't really even take that long. And it's 2 back-to-back sessions you're supposed to do. And I just kind of combined it into one, which is, again, breaking taboo to Oracle. Oh, my God. Buildings are going to fall. Armies will crash. And I called him back, and he told me that was one of the most powerful, amazing experiences he ever had. And I was like, I don't like limits. I'm kind of a rebel from my punk days, drumming and everything. Still have that in me. And part of mastering things is learning them. But once you've done it over and over again a few million times, it's like, wow, I can really do this. So I proceeded to do it like this for many, many years and received a lot of things. Well, recently, it occurred to me I had not updated my directory with these folks in a while. They never contacted me. So they got in touch with me and they said, okay, we'll update you, send us the money, da-da-da, we have this thing coming to Dallas, maybe you can participate. I'm like, yes, okay, let's do this. Then they call me back, they're like, oh, Kevin, we've been to your website. You're doing this virtually. You can't do it virtually. And you're combining it with, you're not just doing this one thing, you do massage and you do, oh my God. I said, isn't this enough for you? And I was like, cancel my subscription. Anytime anyone tells me there's one way, and that's the only way, that's not how humans work, that's not how we work. So, because of that, in about the next month, we're going to roll out our own kind of version of what we do, not copy that. I was a musician, we don't copyright, we don't steal from others, but we learn. And just make it, it's a little bit different, it's a lot different, it won't have the same moves, but it's just a thing that we can do to help people because they love it, they heal from it, and, I like to give the audience what they want, within reasons. Now, go to a university, learn your thing, and do exactly the way they tell you. And then when you're ready, take the book and throw it away because you're a master.
Well, that's what Anna teaches.
There you go. Exactly.
That's what I teach too.
Yes, yes.
So that really affected me in a little bit different way, and that's what made me realize just how it's not powerful. Like, we don't do the work, it channels through
Right.
us. You know, you don't really want to, I don't like it when I called a healer. You just create an environment for healing, and when their body, mind, and spirit are, you know, in that proximity, whether it's across the world or nearby, they just begin to heal, and their body heals as it needs to. So I just don't like being limited, and I don't think people do either. So that's really affected me.
You're here. Yeah, and I have to say, I remember even 10, 15 years ago when I was teaching Reiki 1 and 2 together and doing the attendance. Well, that was a big deal. You were not supposed to, you were supposed to teach 1 and then you were supposed to teach 2. And it's like, no, the energy shifted. You could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I think if we were to take a tweet from our panel today on what is long distance healing, it's limitless,
Yes.
right? So I do want to make sure that we have about 10 more minutes for questions from the audience. Does anyone have any questions for anyone on our panelists? Everyone on our panelists?
I always do.
Yes, go for it.
I believe in magic and I believe in the unbelievable because I've seen it. Do y'all think there's a limit to hear about what this energy work can actually... Do you think there's rules in this limit to where we're not supposed to be dabbling in certain things? Because I witnessed somebody float at Joy's place. I'm not gonna, wherever at Joy's place is a very, very magical place and some magical things happen there.
Yeah, it
It's just a wonderful place to be. I want to give her kudos to that, but that's where I go.
I actually,
And if you, I know that people, in y'all's minds, so that y'all's, if they were all connected to one mind, and if somebody was standing right there and knew that he was up just energy, could you make that person just float off the ground right there in front of everybody?
They can
Somebody
make
have
themselves
fear.
float.
They don't need us.
But it makes it much easier when 6 minds, 7 minds, anybody in this mind, to float that person. I believe that part. And what I'm really asking, do you think that we can open a portal? That body can go through that portal into another world and pull that information from that world and bring it here and give it to this world.
Every day, every second, you're
But-
pulling information.
Parallel life stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I call past life regression. Because to me, the energy that we use is life force energy. It's light and it's energy, but for me, in my experience, about 95% of it is information. And it's an information highway we have access to. To me, it's like the internet. I used to build websites, so I know a little bit about it, but I can't taste it, I can't touch it, you know, but I know when I connect to it, you know. But I don't wake up every day and pray to the gods of the internet that it's going to be on, because they would come and get me and take me away. It's just a natural thing. So we all have this ability. There's nothing that special about any of us. We've just decided to take the step forward into this and just do it. And my mission is to let people know that everyone's psychic. We all have the ability. We're just here to help. For some reason, we're called for that. I mean, so yeah, whatever you want to do, you can do and make happen, I think.
I get the astral projection part of it because my consciousness left here and I went in this blue bubble. I don't know how it happened. I just ended up in Colorado. I don't know, but I was there. But I've also witnessed portals open up in this dimension here. The image is distorted. And I wanted to go through it and said, don't go through that. I don't know why I told me not to go through there.
I had a similar situation.
I want to go through there.
I had a similar situation happen in Egypt. When I was actually in the Great Pyramid, this Copperdos, I actually jumped into it, decided to lay down like an Egyptian, and I started toning. I was told to tone. So I started toning, and all of a sudden I heard, tone one more time and you will disappear. To where? So I believe, like when I go to Teo, I call something the Stargate. I have seen through it before. have actually slipped through it before. There are portals all over in nature. They're all over the earth at this particular juncture. And you have the ability to do that now. I've stopped myself twice because it's like I want to go, well, will my family be bothered if I disappear?
Yes. And there's portals inside of your chakras, and portals within you, and there's portals within your spirit, and opening and closing. The thing you need to know that there's natural portals, and there's unnatural portals. And the natural portals, they just open and close, and they do it everywhere. But the unnatural portals, those are the ones that we get called in and say, you know,
Yeah.
we get called, you know.
Can you close this in my house now?
I think Anne wanted to weigh in, sorry.
Well, I first heard you asking, is there some ways we would not use this energy? So I've got two thoughts on that part of your question. And for instance, I could do session work on everybody out here in the audience, but I would not without their conscious permission, because I believe each of us is entitled to our own free will, and I would not want to violate that. And there are exceptions, you know, if somebody's in a coma or a real small child who doesn't have the cognitive development, then I would let the parents speak for them, but I'm always checking them too with their I am presence when the person cannot give their conscious permission. The other thing is black magic or voodoo, using the energy for some kind of negative purpose or motive. I would never do that because I think I'm given this gift and talent and expertise to be able to use it in positive ways for people, to help transform people, to empower them to be able to live more of the life they want. And I would not, again, want to violate that by using it for negative reasons.
And also, anything you put out goes back 7 times
Right.
stronger.
Right.
So why would you want to put something out?
Well, I'm not trying to go there and then bring information back. I know that stuff can be actual objects, come from that world, and I can pull it out of this world and bring it to this world.
It's happening to you right
Right. But somehow I don't know where them. Sometimes they open up, and then sometimes it manifests.
It's a simple rule. Like attracts like. It's that easy. So when you match something in your energy, your spirit anatomy, and you match it into another past, present, future, and parallel life, because we're having 144 lifetimes in this moment, then your chakras are opening up, and those portals, and this is what we teach in light language, we're giving you information. Those portals open up, and these beautiful healers here, they know how to shut them down when they need to, and if they're unnatural, remember there's natural and unnatural, and they know what it is, they can shut them down before they work with it. And you bring that information in. But it's happening, it's multidimensional, we're all doing it.
Nobody knows how to do it.
Nobody knows
I
how
don't
to
think we had to actually open up one right now in this room. Somebody walked through it and disappeared, and wait a minute, he comes right back, and here I am. You understand what I mean?
So you're one of the physical manifestation.
Is that a limitation? Do you think that would somebody call that black magic?
That's no. That's
Would
just,
you call
that's
that?
what you were talking about, going through the portals. So yeah, no, that's not black magic. It's just
Right.
who we are.
I
It
don't
only is, remember, I know you've gone through some of the lectures, it's below the heart line. So anything that we match below the heart line is only negative we experience. But if it's a positive experience, Joy really wanted to disappear.
Part of it is, what does the ego do with that?
Calls me a cheater.
Okay, because what ends up happening sometimes is, you know, you have these experiences and the ego goes, what are you thinking? You know, like, what happens if you get to the other side and there's nothing there? What happens if you get to the other side and you're on another planet? The ego always stops us. And when I'll tell people, you know, some of the experiences that people have is the ego goes snap, crackle, and pop. What do I mean by that? I have had experiences where I have walked into a parallel universe and have come back. Okay?
Right.
And what happens is something disappeared that I knew I had. Okay? I knew exactly where it was. I could see myself putting it down, and it disappears. What ends up happening is I start crying. Why do I start crying? My ego is like, this can't happen. So you have to elevate your belief system in this to where you know it can happen. Because when you have those experiences, it is going to challenge your ego.
Changes your reality.
It looks like we have about 3 to 4 more minutes. Are there any other questions? Any other questions?
I can ask one.
Yes.
So you mentioned past lives, right? So, and then we're talking about long distance healing. So if you go back into a past life or a past life regression, is that a form of long distance healing?
Well, can be. I mean, to me it is because, I mean, just like if you channel, who are you channeling? Where are they at? I mean, it sounds like they can be pretty far away in our human history.
Very far, yeah.
So, I mean, is that a distance thing? So, yeah, I mean, when I work with some people, one of my clients, sometimes I have them ask, well, how many past lives have I had? And the next question I have them ask is, how many have been on Earth? Sometimes it's a lot. Sometimes not that many. Sometimes they're here. Many times an autistic child, it's never about healing the autism. They're an ambassador here from someplace else. It's about making them comfortable. Sometimes their chakras look different from ours. So, yeah. And one thing I wanted to say, if you want to have some fun in researching this, if you use Google, whatever, put in there, did Jesus do distance healing? And in Matthew and in Luke, it's well documented that a general came to Jesus and said, hey, my servant is very sick, can you come heal him? And he said, well, sure, you know. But he was Jewish, and they came up to him and said, well, you can't go there and enter into his house because you'll be unclean. So he said, okay. So he did the healing without ever going to the house. That's one of the first documented ones 2,000 years ago I can think about. And you mentioned Egypt. About a year ago in January, we went to the Kimball. They had a beautiful exhibit of Nefertari and Ramses. And if you look at a lot of the pictures, she's always standing there like this. And he isn't standing like this, like a king. He's leaning in to it. And you see all the priests doing this. And they're not touching. It's at a distance. What were they doing? They were healing each other. Now, he was very sick, and she was running the world when he was very ill, so she constantly gave him healing energy. So my point is, this isn't anything new. And when people come in and take our classes, I know we've all done this for each other, and sometimes they're my masters returning to check up on me to see if I'm doing things distance or not. But it's nothing new. We're just doing it the way. This is really the medicine. The stuff we call in our society is really the new stuff. And there's good back and forth. But yeah, distance healing is an amazing thing. I liken it to prayer. So.
And
I'd like to say 2 things to your question back there, because I've many times read of one notion that goes on, that perhaps everything that's ever gone on, is going on, or will be going on, is all happening on a continuum. So I like to picture that as like the old-fashioned jukebox with a bunch of different records. Like here's past life ones, and here's present lives, and here's future. But they're all there going on at the same time. That's kind of a hard one for me to wrap my head around. But one way that maybe that comes into play for me, and what I've discovered in my work is that yes, I think a lot of us run into the past life scenarios that can be the cause for some of our issues going on. But sometimes what I've run into is future lives being at the level of cause. And all I can say from some of those, there's some bad stuff that's going on in some future lives. Really crazy that are affecting us in this lifetime now too. So, yeah.
I just want to add to that as far as healing and past life healings happen. We all came here with a plan and a contract, an agreement, whatever we're sick of right now or whatever experience we're experiencing now. If it is your contract, the healing is not going to happen until you learn your contract. No matter, so it's not actually the fault of the practitioner is not good or energy doesn't work. It's just that you have not gone through that lesson to receive, you haven't passed that hurdle, being used to go to your next level. So that energy is not going to affect you or heal you. but then we can heal the agreements. Whatever you agreed on, whatever you just, hold on, whatever you believed on, that can be changed and that healing can happen. But I would like to say, do not forget, you did come with a contract of some sort for you to learn, right? You agree? And that healing will not happen until you are ready for it. And
That goes back to something I was going to say, and you just added to it. So the only limitation I would say is that, and you said it in a different way, I don't ask the person, well, I do. They don't come to me if they don't want, what I'm doing. But I still will not work on anyone before I consult with their higher self, because their higher self knows all the other things that this person can't know. And if it's not right for this person to release these things right now, they have experiences that have reached you for it, then I'll get a no. It's really hard. This happened 5 or 6 times, and I was like, I'm sorry. I don't explain it, your higher self said no. I can come up with something. But there's some people that, I ask at that level, because they can say, oh yeah. But the higher self knows everything, so I ask the higher self.
yes, and they have to believe it's not you that's not healing them.
Right.
You
Well,
do it.
or I'm not even, they're not allowed to, because the higher
That's
self
what I'm
said no.
saying, no, right.
And on that note, if you can help me thank our panelists, we are at time, so thank you so much. This was an awesome panel. Just as a few reminders, you can see today's recording at lightlanguageuniversity.com. Anna and team have a lot of different resources out there, from meditations to classes and links to providers. If you were called to maybe reach out or see any of our providers, all of the information is on the tables out front. And again, thank you so much for your questions. Thank you for your time today. We really appreciated having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.